The stars above the frontier world of Keeler burned with cold indifference. From the observation balcony of the command citadel, Commander Viral of the Tarsian Dominion watched the distant human fleet drift like specks of dust against the endless black. She folded her 4 slender arms behind her back, her long silver crest swaying slightly in the breeze that moved through the open hangar gates. "Pathetic," she murmured. Beside her stood the tactical officer, a younger Tarsian named Relker. His scales shimmered faintly under the blue lights of the citadel. "You truly believe the humans are no threat, Commander?" he asked cautiously. Viral's luminous eyes narrowed. "They are fragile," she replied. "Soft skin, weak bones, no natural weapons. Their lifespan is short, their technology primitive compared to ours. The Council wastes time even acknowledging them." Relker hesitated, but their war records show unusual persistence. Viral gave a dismissive wave. "Persistence is not power." Across the battlefield in orbit, the human ships held their formation. Small, boxy, unimpressive. Viral had seen hundreds of alien species during her military career. Warriors bred for combat. Creatures with natural armor, claws, venom, psychic powers. Humans had none of these. And yet, they kept appearing in places where stronger species had already failed. It puzzled her, but it didn't worry her. The Dominion fleet outnumbered them 3-1. This would be over quickly. The war had begun 3 weeks earlier. The Tarsian Dominion had attempted to claim Keeler, a mineral-rich world on the edge of human space. According to Dominion law, any undeveloped planet near their territory belonged to them by right of expansion. The humans disagreed. They claimed Keeler was a protected colony zone. Negotiations lasted exactly 47 minutes before the Dominion fleet arrived in orbit. Now the two sides faced each other in a silent standoff. In the human flagship, Captain Daniel Reyes stared at the tactical display. Red icons representing Dominion warships filled the screen. "Still no movement from them," the operations officer said. Reyes leaned back in his chair. "They're studying us," he said calmly, "trying to figure out why we haven't run." Lieutenant Morgan snorted. "They think we're scared." Reyes smiled faintly. "Good." Outside the viewport, Keeler's pale blue surface rotated slowly beneath them. There were only 2,000 human settlers on the planet. Farmers, engineers, families. They had no defenses. If the Dominion invaded, they wouldn't survive the week. Reyes folded his hands together. "We hold this line," he said quietly. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The Dominion fleet could destroy them. But if the humans retreated, Keeler would fall. Back in the Dominion citadel, Viral studied the tactical projections. "Why do they remain?" she wondered aloud. Relker tilted his head. "They know they cannot win." "Exactly." Viral tapped the display. "Yet they stay." She enlarged the image of the human fleet. The ships were arranged in a defensive arc around the planet. Not aggressive. Protective. Strange. "They are defending the colony," Relker suggested. "Against us." Viral scoffed. "Yes. That would require courage." Relker hesitated again. "Or desperation." Viral turned away from the display. "Prepare the first strike," she ordered. "Commander? If they wish to pretend they are warriors," she said coldly, "we will grant them the experience." The Dominion attack began at dawn on Keeler. Massive warships descended through the upper atmosphere like falling stars. Human radar stations screamed warnings. On the bridge of the flagship Resolute, alarms blared. "Enemy fleet advancing," Morgan shouted. Reyes stood slowly. "Shields up. All ships hold formation." The Dominion fleet opened fire. Brilliant beams of energy tore through space, striking the outer edges of the human defensive line. One human cruiser exploded instantly. Another spun out of control, venting atmosphere. But the line held. Human ships returned fire. Their weapons were smaller, weaker, but precise. Several Dominion fighters burst into flame. On the Citadel balcony, Viral watched the battle unfold. She murmured. They are resisting. Relker nodded. They're fighting harder than expected. Viral remained silent. The humans were losing ships quickly, but they weren't retreating. They weren't even breaking formation. It was unusual. Hours passed. The battlefield became a storm of fire and debris. Human ships were outmatched in power, yet they fought with relentless coordination. When one ship fell, another immediately filled the gap. When their shields collapsed, they kept firing anyway. Inside the Resolute, sparks rained from the ceiling as another blast rocked the hull. Shields at 30%. Morgan shouted. Reyes gripped the railing beside the command chair. Damage report. Multiple decks breached. Engineering barely holding. Outside the viewport, a Dominion dreadnought loomed closer. Its cannons glowed. Morgan stared at the screen. Captain, that thing can cut us in half. Reyes nodded. Probably. Orders? The captain looked at the planet below. Thousands of tiny lights from the colony shimmered in the darkness. Families were down there. Children. People who believed the fleet would protect them. Reyes took a slow breath. We hold. Commander Viral watched another human ship explode. Strange creatures, she said. They continue to fight despite overwhelming losses. Relker studied the data. Commander, they've lost 40% of their fleet. And yet they remain. Yes. Viral leaned forward. Why? Relker hesitated. They're protecting the planet. That cannot be their only reason. Perhaps it is. Viral frowned. The concept made little sense to her. Most species valued survival above all. When defeat became certain, they retreated. Humans did not. Instead, they seemed to grow more determined. Almost stubborn. The Dominion dreadnought fired. The blast struck the Resolute's shields. Energy rippled across the hull like lightning. Shields down. Morgan shouted. The bridge lights flickered. Reyes steadied himself. Return fire. But our weapons? Fire. The Resolute launched everything it had. Missiles streaked toward the dreadnought. Most were destroyed. One struck the engine housing. A small explosion blossomed across the massive ship. On the Citadel balcony, Viral raised an eyebrow. They damaged a dreadnought. Relker nodded. With a vessel 1/3 its size. Viral's eyes narrowed. Interesting. Inside the Resolute, smoke filled the corridors. Crew members rushed to seal ruptured bulkheads. The ship was barely functioning. Morgan checked the tactical display. Captain, the rest of the fleet is falling back. Reyes nodded. They've done their part. What about us? Reyes looked at the approaching dreadnought. It was charging its main cannon again. If it fired, the blast would reach the colony surface. Thousands would die instantly. The captain made his decision. All hands, he said over the intercom. Prepare for collision course. Morgan froze. You mean? Yes. You're going to ram it. Reyes met her eyes. It's the only way to stop that cannon. The bridge fell silent. No one argued. On the Dominion Citadel, alarm sounded. Relker looked up from the console. Commander, the human flagship is accelerating. Viral studied the trajectory. It's heading directly toward the dreadnought. Perhaps they intend a final attack. No, Viral said slowly. They intend to collide. Relker stared at her. Surely not. But the data confirmed it. The human ship was pushing its engines beyond safe limits, straight toward the dreadnought's core. Viral felt something unfamiliar stir in her mind. Confusion. Why would they sacrifice their own vessel? The dreadnought was massive. Even if they rammed it, the humans would be destroyed. Relker whispered. They know they will die. Viral watched the approaching ship. Yes. Inside the Resolute, the crew strapped themselves into their stations. The hull groaned as engines overloaded. Morgan swallowed hard. Distance to target? 30 seconds, navigation replied. Reyes looked around the bridge. Every officer was calm, focused. Not one of them tried to flee. Not one asked to abandon ship. Proud of you all, Reyes said quietly. Someone chuckled. Guess we're making history. Outside, the Dominion dreadnought began charging its cannon. It was too late to stop the shot. Unless Reyes leaned forward. Full thrust. Commander Viral gripped the balcony railing. The human ship was seconds away.
She realized something then.
They were not fighting to win. They were fighting to protect others. To sacrifice themselves for a colony they barely knew. For strangers. For people who might never even learn their names. The concept was irrational, illogical, and yet it was terrifyingly powerful. Commander, Relker whispered. Impact in 5 seconds. The Resolute struck the dreadnought at full speed. For a moment, the two ships seemed frozen together. Then the human vessel's reactor detonated. A blinding explosion ripped through the dreadnought's core. The massive ship shattered. Fragments rained across space like burning meteors. The main cannon never fired. Below them, the colony remained untouched. Silence fell across the battlefield. Both fleets stopped firing. Even the Dominion commanders were stunned. Commander Viral stared at the wreckage drifting through space. The human ship was gone.
Completely.
Destroyed in the blast. Relker spoke softly. They sacrificed themselves. Viral nodded slowly. Yes. For the colony. Yes. Relker hesitated. Commander, what kind of species does that? Viral looked at the remaining human ships. They had lost nearly half their fleet, but they still held formation, still defending the planet. Even after witnessing their flagship's destruction, Viral felt something shift inside her understanding of the universe. Humans were fragile, physically weak, short-lived, but they possessed something far more dangerous. A willingness to stand their ground, to endure impossible odds, to die for others without hesitation. She turned to Relker. Order the fleet to stand down. Relker blinked. Commander, we will withdraw from Keeler. But the Council, I will answer to the Council. She looked once more at the battlefield. At great cost, she said quietly, the humans have demonstrated a strength we did not understand. Relker nodded slowly. A strength greater than weapons. Yes. Viral watched the surviving human ships regroup around the planet. They are weak in body, she said. But in spirit, she paused. They may be the strongest species we have ever encountered. Days later, a Dominion envoy arrived at the human fleet. A formal message was transmitted to every ship. Commander Viral herself delivered it. Humans of Keeler, her voice echoed across the channels. The Dominion recognizes your claim to this world. Inside the damaged cruiser Liberty, Lieutenant Morgan listened in disbelief. They're leaving, she whispered. The message continued. Your actions have demonstrated a form of strength unfamiliar to our people. We will not challenge this colony again. The transmission ended. Outside, the Dominion fleet slowly turned away. One by one, their warships jumped to hyperspace. The battle was over. The colony was safe. Morgan looked at the empty space where the Resolute had once been. Captain, she murmured softly. You did it. Far away, aboard her flagship, Commander Viral stood alone in the observation chamber. She replayed the final moments of the human ship again. The collision, the explosion, the sacrifice. For the first time in her long military career, she felt something close to respect for another species. perhaps even admiration. She whispered to the stars, "I once believed humans were weak." Her luminous eyes reflected the endless galaxy beyond. "Now I understand."
She paused.
"They are only weak until it truly matters."